Washington, D.C., April 14, 1865. The Civil War was finally over. At Ford's Theater, a night of respite awaited. President Lincoln and Mary Todd were to attend a performance. The president's box stood ready, the gaslights cast a warm glow. History was about to take a tragic turn. John Wilkes Booth, a renowned actor and Confederate sympathizer, nursed a venomous hatred for President Lincoln. The recent Union victory, the impending abolition of slavery, these were bitter pills for Booth to swallow. In his mind, Lincoln was a tyrant, a destroyer of the South he held so dear. Booth, a handsome man with piercing eyes and a charismatic stage presence, was no stranger to attention, but his fame, his success, paled in comparison to the consuming rage that burned within him. He saw Lincoln as the embodiment of all that he despised, a symbol of the Union he sought to destroy. Driven by misguided patriotism and fueled by whispers of conspiracy, Booth hatched a desperate plan. He would avenge the South by assassinating the president. The idea, at first a mere flicker in the darkness of his mind, grew into an obsession, a consuming fire that threatened to consume him. Booth confided in a small group of like-minded individuals, men bound together by their shared hatred for Lincoln and their allegiance to the Confederacy. Together they plotted to strike a blow against the Union, a blow that they believed would cripple the North and resurrect their beloved South. The plan was audacious, dangerous, and utterly misguided. The play was in full swing. Laughter rippled through the theater as the actors delivered their lines with impeccable comedic timing. In the presidential box, Lincoln sat relaxed, a smile playing on his lips. He leaned back in his chair, momentarily free from the weight of the nation. Unbeknownst to the unsuspecting audience, John Wilkes Booth lurked in the shadows, his eyes fixed on the presidential box. He had been monitoring the president's movements throughout the evening, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Seizing a brief pause in the play, Booth crept towards the unguarded entrance of the presidential box. His heart pounded in his chest, a drumbeat of fear and anticipation. He gripped the Derringer pistol in his pocket, his hands slick with sweat. With a deep breath and a silent prayer, Booth threw open the door to the box and stepped inside. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. In that suspended moment, the fate of a nation hung in the balance. Booth raised his pistol, aiming it directly at the back of Lincoln's head. A deafening blast split the air, echoing through the stunned silence of the theater. The sound of the gunshot shattered the festive atmosphere, replacing it with a wave of confusion and terror. The audience, momentarily stunned into silence, erupted in a cacophony of screams and gasps. People scrambled over seats, desperate to escape the unseen danger. Mary Lincoln, startled by the sudden noise, turned to see her husband slumped in his chair, his head resting against the back of the box. A crimson stain bloomed on his temple, a stark contrast to the white of his collar. Her scream, filled with a mother's primal fear and a wife's unbearable grief, pierced the chaos. On stage, the actors froze, their rehearsed lines forgotten in the face of unimaginable horror. The audience, no longer concerned with the play, surged towards the exits, their faces pale with fear and disbelief. The air, thick with the smell of gunpowder and the stench of fear, crackled with a palpable sense of danger. Amidst the chaos, a figure leaped from the presidential box onto the stage. John Wilkes Booth, his face illuminated by the stage lights, brandished a bloody knife and cried out, "Sic semper tyrannis! Thus always to tyrants!" His words, a chilling declaration of his deed, hung heavy in the air. Booth, his escape route meticulously planned, landed on the stage with the agility of a seasoned performer. He ignored the stunned faces of the actors, his mind focused solely on escape. Pushing past the startled performers, he raced across the stage, his boots thudding against the wooden floorboards. He leaped from the stage, his spur catching on the American flag that draped the presidential box. He stumbled but quickly regained his balance, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The audience, now realizing the gravity of the situation, watched in horrified fascination as the assassin made his escape. Booth bolted through the back door of the theater and into the waiting arms of the night. He mounted a waiting horse, his heart pounding in his chest. The alleyway, dimly lit by flickering gaslights, echoed with the sound of his horse's hooves as he galloped away from the scene of his crime. Behind him, Ford's Theater buzzed with a chaotic energy. People poured into the streets, their voices a mixture of fear, confusion, and outrage. The news of the president's shooting spread like wildfire, casting a pall over the city and sending shockwaves throughout the nation. Back in the presidential box, pandemonium reigned. Doctors rushed to Lincoln's side, their faces grim as they assessed the severity of his wound. Mary, inconsolable, clung to her husband's hand, her sobs echoing through the silent theater. Hope, once so palpable, seemed to evaporate with each passing moment. Lincoln, unconscious and clinging to life, was carried from the theater and across the street to a boarding house. The nation held its breath, united in grief and uncertainty. Telegraph wires hummed with the devastating news, carrying the weight of the tragedy to every corner of the country. Throughout the long night, doctors labored tirelessly to save the president, but the damage was too severe. At 7:22 a.m. the following morning, April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, breathed his last. His death, a devastating blow to a nation still reeling from the wounds of war, plunged the country into mourning. The nation grieved for its fallen leader, a man who had guided them through their darkest hour. Church bells tolled across the country, their mournful cries a testament to the collective sorrow. Black crepe-adorned buildings, flags flew at half-mast, and the nation prepared to bury its hero. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln sent shockwaves throughout the world. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the enduring power of hatred and division. The nation, still grappling with the aftermath of the Civil War, was thrust into a period of profound grief and uncertainty. John Wilkes Booth, the man who had sought to avenge the South, had inadvertently solidified Lincoln's legacy as a martyr for the cause of unity and freedom. His death, a tragic punctuation mark on a tumultuous period in American history, served as a catalyst for healing and reconciliation. Lincoln's legacy, however, extended far beyond his tragic end. He was remembered as the great emancipator, the man who had held the Union together during its darkest hour. His Gettysburg Address, a timeless testament to the principles of equality and democracy, continued to inspire generations to come. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln, though a tragedy of immense proportions, ultimately served as a testament to the enduring strength of American democracy. It was a stark reminder that the journey towards a more perfect union is often fraught with peril, but that the ideals of liberty, equality, and justice will ultimately prevail.